So today we are continuing our discussion on the wrists in the golf swing, but in this video specifically looking at the downswing into impact and what they should do into the follow through. So welcome back to Spain. We are again at the PGA Catalunya Golf Resort, and there are not many better holes in which to film a video. This is the 13th on the stadium course, an unbelievable hole down to Arden Green in the distance. And we are continuing our discussion on wrists and how they should move in the golf swing. We've already covered the backswing. Hopefully you've watched that. If you haven't, I'll link it in the corner. But this one, we're looking at more the downswing and into impact. So in this particular video, you're going to again learn about this flexion and extension process. You're going to learn about when the wrist should uncock, and you're going to really learn about how they should move through the impact area, which is pretty key to developing speed in the club, but also control over that club face. Just before we get into that video and start talking about those wrists, if you're new to my channel, you're not a subscriber, it is absolutely free. The videos get uploaded each week, and you can get notified of a video just by subscribing, by clicking the link in the description box below. So, video one was talking about the wrist in the backswing. We used a T-peg in the glove. We're going to do the same thing as we're talking about the downswing. So we're just going to take that T-peg, and it's just going to get popped into the Velcro, just so it will give me a reference as to where the kind of back of my hand faces. So what we're looking at again in this downswing is the two movements that we covered in video one. We covered this movement here, which we said was wrist cock or wrist set, and we've got this movement here, which is the kind of hinging motion of the wrists. Now again, as we approach the golf ball and go through into impact, those two things are changing. They're always changing. We're going to kind of do two things in this video. We're going to go through, first of all, what should happen, and then secondly, what you might want to actually feel or work towards if you're a golfer with a certain pattern in the ball flight. So let's find a nice little downswing position where we're in here. Now, we talked about that T-peg pointing out towards, let's say, 2 o'clock. And I really want that same sensation in the downswing, that if I was to approach this delivery position, the T-peg is pointing out in that fashion there. What that's going to do is going to put a flatness to my lead wrist. When my lead wrist is flat, my trail wrist has to be bent. Now let's look at sort of the same position on the other side of the golf ball. Now on the other side of the golf ball, we have the complete opposite. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to see from that camera, but my lead wrist is now bent and my trail wrist is now flat, and the T-peg now points behind me. So the relationship we had here, this lead wrist being flat, changes so the lead wrist is now bent on this side of the golf ball. And that's going to be happening through impact. Now, I certainly don't want you to ever feel that you're flicking at the golf ball, so we're achieving an impact with a bent left wrist. But what should actually happen is, as we start to approach this golf ball, this lead wrist, which is very flat, the T-peg points away from me, and as I approach this golf ball, at this point here now, I will start to release the golf club into the ball, but my lead wrist will start to what we call extend. And you can see that cupping motion there. Now I've made this a little bit more exaggerated and probably made it happen a little bit earlier than would be the reality. But this is what's happening through impact. So yes, absolutely, we want a flat lead wrist at impact. We want the handle to be forwards and we want the trail wrist to be bent. But this lead wrist, whilst it's flat at impact, is in the process of what we call extending, moving this way. Now, why does that need to be there? Well, very simple. That's a great way to add speed to the club. If you can imagine I was holding a frisbee in my left hand and I was looking to throw this as far as I could, I would most likely arch my wrist in this fashion here. And then to put the most amount of speed into it, I would be rotating my body, I would be swinging my arm, and I would be extending that wrist. So I'm rotating and I'm extending that wrist to create the most amount of speed in that golf ball. So what I really want you to rehearse, and this is rehearsing what should happen. I want you to practice, if you want perfect wrist action, I want you to rehearse this point in the downswing, lead wrist flat, trail wrist bent, and then as you rotate through and you speed up the club head, we end up in this position here. If I go a little further so we can see from the down the line, we now get the lead wrist bent and the trail wrist flat. So we've changed that relationship around. What that's going to do is it's going to help you deliver a club face which is neutral, well controlled, but it's also going to allow you to put good amount of speed into the golf ball. So let's quickly just touch on what you might want to feel. If you're a chronic slicer of the golf ball, You know that you deliver the club face excessively open to your path. You curve the ball way right, which on this hole wouldn't be the best shot option. What you may want to feel is that this flat lead wrist continues all the way into your follow through. Notice how that lead wrist is still flat. My trail wrist will be very bent. What that's going to do is it's going to help you rotate the club face and close the club face. Now the reality is you might not get there, but that's going to be the feeling for a golfer who chronically slices the golf ball. But for those golfers looking to work on correct wrist action, we're looking for you to achieve this position on the way through here, where we've got this bent lead wrist and flat trail wrist. So let's go ahead and hit one. I've got a 2-iron here because that should keep me just short of that water that's all the way down there. So, if we can get a head around the idea of what the wrists are doing in the backswing, what the wrist should be doing on the downswing and through impact, we can do those two things that we covered in video 1 and we've covered again in here. We can control the club face, absolutely vital for playing good golf, and we can add speed to the club head, again, something that's vital to play good golf. If you can hit the ball far enough to play the golf course, it's much easier to shoot lower scores. So club face control and speed is partly down to how we use the wrists. In these two videos, we've covered that, and that's going to hopefully leave you in a better position to make some good decisions on your golf game, work towards improving your wrist angles, and ultimately towards improving your golf. Huge thank you to PJ Catalunya. We've been out here with a golf school for 4 days, but they've kindly given us access to the course so we can create some of these videos. The course is absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, I've not had a chance to play the golf course, but I've walked around it a few times, and it is absolutely well worth a visit if you're in the Barcelona, Girona area of Spain. Thanks for watching. Usual stuff is down below. There's a comments box down there. There's the like button, and that little logo over there, that will allow you to be that free subscriber. Give that a click, and we can help you play some better golf. Thanks for watching.